Hi there, we are here today with James. How are you, James?
It's one of those sort of physically suffering type of days. The body just feels like worn out, and for no explicable reason.
But what did you say? There's a Jupiter return or something?
Yeah, I think if I remember rightly, Jupiter's gone retrograde, so it has an effect. It's the magnetics of everything, because whatever's going on up there, as it were, is going on inside as well. They're connected.
So nobody's having a really good time at the moment, then.
Well, there'd be things like that. You might get aches and pains on a particular day, and you think, why am I feeling so lethargic? And it doesn't seem to be any. It's not like you can say, well, the previous day I did more physical activity than normal, so the body's feeling it the following day. There's a sort of like case of elimination, and the sensations are telling me it's like this is an astral or cosmic influence again.
Go away!
Which is a good thing.
Go away!
It's acts of things, probably. Seems to be that when you reach sort of milestones, as it were, or smile tones, maybe, it's all frequency. You seem to get, the universe seems to reward you when you get certain points, and things just appear. It's actually quite magical.
Well, I suppose that's a good way of looking at it. All the horrible things are magical.
Well, it comes down to perceptions on things. Like, if you're, let's put it into a daily context. So you want to go to I don't know, an exhibition in Birmingham. So you look at the map and you plan the easiest, quickest route to get there. But this is in the unseen. So if I'm looking at that external world, anything outside of me is external. It's like, things don't look that great. So the first thing I've got to do is neutralise how I feel about it. So I want it to go like an ice hockey puck, and it just glide across and get the energy to get where it's meant to get to. So I smooth out the external in the mind. It seems to be like an interaction, like we are characters in a video game, and this works.
Yeah, you look very in your little video here that's playing. Even though it's a hoodie, you look quite monk-like.
I started making that video, and I had the hood down, and the wind was sort of, there's like enough of a breeze. I was like blowing the hair in front of my face, and it's like, I'll put the hood up and that'll stop that. So that's the only reason, because I thought on playback, I thought, people are going to see that image and they're going to say, oh, he's trying to look like whatever.
Yeah, you're trying to look like a monk, James.
But it was just purely
or is it Merlin? Reason. Merlin.
Yeah, actually there is a pub called Merlin's Bar not far from there, funny. But no, I'm sort of known as Gandalf around this way. That's what most people seem to say.
They call you what?
A lot of people call me Gandalf.
What's that? Why's that?
Because that film has obviously made an impression on them, and
I see.
They remember that. So, because I've got the sort of the hair and the beard, and automatically.
Oh, see, that's the Buddha bit. That's the ring in the ears and the Buddha.
Well, the Buddha, if you think about it, the whole sort of perception of Buddhism is like a Buddhist monk. It's like living a simple life. Yeah, you've got this Buddha character. He's got this great big belly. It's like that's overindulging on eating. That doesn't sort of fit the image doesn't fit the narrative, as it were. Surprise. But when what it's actually referring to, it's another thing that's been taken literally and turned into somebody fictitious in history. The belly is an emphasis on its belly breathing. That's what it's really referring to. The Bodhi tree is his spine. So the body, the inner real you, is sitting near the base of that tree, which is the spine. So it's referencing about the Christ consciousness rising within, the Kundalini rising. It's another way of expressing exactly the same thing. It's not some fat man who's sitting there chuckling away and has a partiality to overeating. And the fact that you've got a depiction of you look at these Buddha depictions, he's always bald. This is the same story in the Bible.
Yeah,
of
I don't know if you remember, James, there's a great big one by my front on my door.
Oh, right.
On the floor, there's a big Buddha.
Well, that'd be another depiction. It says about Esau came out first, who was the one that was covered in hair. Jacob was the hairless one that came out second, because it's talking about the physical body and the real inner you. So this is why the Buddha is also bald, because it's the inner man in all of us. Generic man says it's not necessarily a man or a woman. It's a depiction that's been turned into an image. So it's a false idol.
Those things are, aren't they, James?
It's just an external representation of all of us. It's just a guide, really.
Yeah.
Because the Buddha doesn't go anywhere. He just sits under this tree, and everybody goes to him. So it's talking about magnetism again, basically.
Right.
Or the
Is
dialectic.
that what happens with you? They all magnetise towards you and call you, what was it again?
Well, I think all of us can manifest things we don't want in our lives from feeling. So it's just flipping it and changing how you feel inside, and then it brings the positive polarity instead of the negative polarity. The background scene is going to keep playing out. I said on one of those videos, there is not one character in history that has ever ended war, ever ended poverty. There's always been negative aspects.
No, whatever they said in the 1900s, say, we're forming a party to look after the poor and get them housing. They're still doing it today. They haven't done it. We're still in the same place. They're always doing the same things. We need more money for this. You need this for that. It's still all the same things. No matter how long they've been in, still want the same things. More this, more that, more. We haven't got enough of this. The people are still poor. It's still the same. It's all the same. Nothing has changed.
Yeah. But I don't know if you've seen BITCHUTE Channel. The guys put together a chronicon, which gives you the dates of everything. So we're actually in the year 5916 Annus Mundi. All the other calendars and calendrical systems all match into this. So you take a year like 1902, it's a marker year. Every 138 years, this Phoenix event happens.
Yeah, that'd be happy. That's what Claudio's going on about, that we're waiting for the next one next year. Yeah,
some channels are saying it's 2024, 2020. Personally, I go with 2025. That's going to be a month. I think that's going to be a very decisive year. But I'll run with the 2040. There'll be a 12-year marker. So 2028, there'll be something happen then. Something big will happen. Because these years that are markers, there's events that play out that are very similar or identical, equal number of years around that year. So unification of...
It's really strange, because you know what? The churches in the churches it's to do with the Phoenix rising, but I think that's all to do with still the same thing, the Roman Empire. But I don't know if you know Sven, he thinks that we kind of started in the Victorian times, whereas I get this feeling it's back to that War of the Roses, but that's still the time. Yeah, that's not. I don't know. Just got this feeling, but anyway, it's all a bit strange, isn't it? Oh, what does a J mean then on the tombs?
A J, well, it's a hook. It's an I, but with a hook on the end, like a fishing hook.
So it's not a J at all. So why would it? If it's a year, like a 1, would it have a hook on it?
Because it's tied to this realm. That's why they use the eagle as a symbol, because it comes down and grabs.
That's what they put the Bible on. In a lot of the churches, what the priest or the vicar puts his Bible on is an eagle. Yes, it's an eagle. It's what he's putting it on. The Bible on that.
Yeah. They like to get their claws in.
That's a good way of putting it, James.
Well, if you think about it, what the picture they're presenting is you're insignificant and small, and there's something above you, and it's a great big eagle that's going to come down and snatch you, as it were. It's all just, it's just basic another version of fear porn to control the masses
everything's about that, isn't it? You know, it's not toilet paper, it's baby formula, it's not that, it's petrol and diesel, and it's all just a game.
All they've got to do is put out the story. And a lot of humanity has been shown with the toilet rolls will play it out. They will hoard stuff. Then some of them will go take it a step further and then sell the stuff at exorbitant prices on eBay, which makes the whole thing seem real. I think, personally, what's probably happened is the distribution centres are not sending out any more than they did. And there is no problem of a shortage. But because humanity has been given a script and they've run with that script, they've made it.
That sounds just about right, James. This is what I tell everybody. It's all just made up situations to... You see, we all know, don't we? If they keep you in fear, then they've got you.
Well, I find it strange.
And even if we don't care, you know, just, what, the Prime Minister's resigned? Oh, my God. You know, in that world, it's all terrifying.
Yeah. But, well, considering nobody gets to vote on those, it's like...
They're not elected, are they? They're selected.
Well, it's like, you vote for me and I'll make sure your family gets the contract to supply the NHS with this, or you'll get the contract... I mean, think about this. If you've got a business, you don't overproduce something unless you don't up the production rate unless you know you've got customers for it. So just think, just in the town that you live, think about how many shops have got great big sheets of acrylic sheets. Now, where did all that plastic sheeting, that perspex, suddenly come from? That almost seemed to happen overnight, and every shop you go in has got these screens up to keep you safe. But as far as I remember, around the supermarket, basically they don't even do the pyramids of baked beans anymore. Unless the unlikely happens of maybe a ceiling panel drops on the head, I've never really felt as if I'm not safe in a supermarket. But the message is always, we're keeping you safe. It's like, well, I didn't know I was in any danger, to be honest.
Well, yes, James.
I mean, I've had a lot of various support workers, and the question they keep asking is, do you feel suicidal? Repeatedly. And it's like, are you trying to implant the idea? Because it's like, look, if I was feeling suicidal, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. If my mind had snapped that much, I would have already jumped in front of a train or something. There'd be no discussion. I would have just gone and done it. But why they've got to keep asking this is amazing.
Because I suppose they've just got to keep everybody in a state, haven't they? A state of.
Yeah. Well, you know like you put a song on and you feel uplifted. But you can also feel very sad, and think about the chemical changes that creates in the body. So all those negative states they're trying to put you in is altering the chemicals inside you from how you respond to what you take in. I mean, the system has shown over and over again, look at the neutral countries, how prosperous they are. They don't get involved in wars, and they think financially, because we're talking in the material world, they do very well. That is actually guiding humanity. It's telling you to stay neutral to everything in the metaphysical sense. And don't feed the energy into it. Ken Wheeler, Theora Apotheosis Channel, Hitler Marcus make a game called a Ouija board. It's a piece of cardboard and it's a piece of plastic. So that makes you have to ask yourself the question, so what is the power source for this thing? Where's the energy coming from? Never mind where is it coming from, but what is the operant power? What is operating it? And that has to be the people who take part in it. But when you look at the word Ouija, it's French and German for yes. So if we take yes as being positive, does a circuit work with two positives? Surely it would short circuit, or it would be chaotic energy. So what is that? I mean, I wouldn't touch one of the things personally.
It's horrible to think what's really going on, isn't it? Because they've affected just about every part of everything. And then on top of that, there's going to be more and more and more and more. And even when you think something's real or you think that bit's real, it isn't. And then when you get to conspiracy, they're probably doing that as well. They've got their oar in everything.
Oh, yeah, there will. There'll definitely be YouTube channels and Facebook, which will be controlled opposition, which will probably tell you 90% truth and only 10% will actually be misleading, but it's enough to keep the divide and conquer going. So,
yeah,
it's very much walking an individual path on this one, and it's
it's so weird when you wake up and you realise all this, but you know, in a sense, it was easier when we believed all the other stuff because we didn't think and we didn't worry so much about anything. And now when you wake up, you think, oh my bleep bleep. There's no one to go to.
Yeah.
You've got no one to report anything to and say this is going on or anything.
Well, it won't go anywhere if you do report it. It will get to a certain point and it will get quashed anyway. The lower levels of anything are just people doing their jobs, with a few probably that have less benevolent reasons for being in those positions. The startling one, actually, was a survey. This is something Ken Wheeler mentioned. I think it was a survey of doctors. 98% go into the job for the money. Only 2% they went into that career to help people. That's terrible. But it shows where their interests.
Well, it shows what they've made society into. But you know what? Even though that really does happen, and especially those that love watching the television because they're buying it and taking it all in, you know, a community starts in your own back garden has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
You know, you do this yourself. You don't need them to tell you anything. You do it yourself. That's a bit like when everybody has to walk around with the Bible all the time and think, oh, I've got to have that on me because I might need to open it or read it. Or, you know, you need something else. You only need yourself.
Yeah, that becomes a psychological crutch.
What it is I'm not saying you're horrible or stupid for carrying a Bible. I'm saying just carry it for the right reason, not for the reasons that you think, because they're not right. Well, you know, you've been told the wrong thing.
Well, it's the same as the Buddha thing. It's been turned into a secular, literal story, and it's not. it's actually talking about what's going within us. When it says about Christ stands on the shore and says cast your nets on the other side, it's an allegory. It's standing on a firm.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's just a guidebook. But what you've got as the Bible today, same as anything in science papers, it's peer reviewed by the Council of Nicaea and various other ones. They decided what's apocryphal and what's not going in and what not. They've got a peer reviewed book. But as a literal story, it makes absolute sense. Unless I'm missing something and there was a talking snake that said, eat this apple.
I just find it amazing that, you know, we were born maybe only 20, 30 years after this thing was ruined. That's quite incredible, isn't it? Everybody's looking for thousands of years ago or whatever it is, but it actually was much closer to us than you thought.
If you were to take this from a far future perspective, looking at the century, you could say, well, the apocalypse is happening. Look, there's floods there, there's fires, and they're little staged things that build up into a bigger picture. It's the same as all these like number sequences, little things that happen in the day. On their own, they're actually quite insignificant and trivial, but taken as a whole picture, it's like, how is this even possible? I'll give you an example. I looked at a video. It was 12:44. It had been published 4 hours previous. It had 44 views. I became like number 12. So you've got a 12:44 being mirrored as 44:12.
Right.
And how is that even? That's just one example. But how is this possible without it being?
I think what happens is that a lot of people, some people get worried when the number thing happens. They don't like it because they suddenly start seeing these numbers everywhere, all the same numbers. But I always take that when those things happen, it means you're more in tune with everything, so that's why you see the numbers. But it's like a film, isn't it? It's like a film. Like we could say is that you are Agent James. I've got, I can see them. You know, it's a bit like that, isn't it? I've got to work the clues out.
Take them as like a thumbs up on Facebook, basically, from an unseen realm. That's like, this has been shown to you, or you've noticed it for a reason. But it's certainly nothing to fear. But this is the thing.
People don't like it because it's like, the numbers are following me.
Well, if they want to feel that about it, then...
It came to me in the way of like time. Like I sort of roughly know what the time is all the time. You know, like you'll go, but it's whatever it is, 3:15 and it'll be 3:14 or something. But you're just like, you just know what the time is. So those are numbers, aren't they? It's slightly different, but same sort of thing.
Yeah, well, even the numbers, they're a code, really. It's a mixture of 0 and 1. Every number, every numeral and every letter of the alphabet is made up of parts of a straight line or a curve or a mixture of the two.
Yeah.
The world is ruled by signs and symbols. Well, until somebody tells me what a letter, just a shape, I wouldn't know it's a letter B until somebody's told me. But in a sequence and creating a spell, seeing things in a different way. It's like the word individual. Its component parts, the first part it says in. The end part says you all. So it's vivid. It's in all of us, it's saying. What is the D-I-V-I-D? Well, I see the V. You could express it as it's die and ID, so you could say death of the ego. From a spiritual
it's like being in, you know, when they sussed out in this, well, supposing these, nothing's real, is it? But the Amiga thing, what is it called? Not Amiga. You know what I mean? When they broke the code.
The
German
Enigma.
Enigma, that's it.
Yeah,
It's like that. It's like being in
yeah,
that. I'm going to break the code.
yeah. You start seeing and hearing words because we're only taught one way of hearing something. But if you actually look at the word, or some words, they're different spellings but the same sound. But when it refers in the Bible to Egypt, it's actually referring to anything in the external world. Most people can't see the pyramids, and yet they are everywhere.
And star forts as well. Star forts are everywhere.
Oh, no, but these are non-physical form pyramids. Take a supermarket chain. You've got somebody at the top, you've got a board of directors, then you've got your managerial level, then you've got your workforce. Is that not a pyramid?
Yeah.
The word Egypt, you've got E is energy. Jip means theft. So it's still the T. This is one of these pictorial ones. It's an I. The upright bit represents the spine. Now, when you see things at your higher self level, it becomes a T. So it's a theft of your spirit. That's what Egypt is, to rob you of your energy. It's trying to get you to look at things.
Yeah, that's about right, that is, James.
It's right down to the mobiles. You think how much human energy there is in a sports event. And when you start seeing that these matches and things are played out on specific dates, and like, this is incredible. It's like, how far does this whole ritual aspect seem to go with everything in our lives? But it is seek and you will find. So the more you look for it, the more you're going to see it as well.
Yeah. Just changing the video, by the way. We've just run out.
I retract.
We've just
retract.
Sorry.
Oh, right.
Yeah, carry on.
Okay. Is it still recording or?
Yeah, I'm going to stop it for James. I've changed it. Carry on. What were you saying?
As I say, I'm going to retract that last statement about seeking ye shall find. The exception, and I think because it's connected to nature and it's connected to the air element, is birds' feathers. If I look for them, I won't find any. But as I'm walking along, these feathers will just appear. I save them. It's like a nature-given hobby, as it were. What I do with them in the end, I don't know. Or you make like an Indian headdress out of them.
Yeah, the Indian of Scotland.
But the way I see this realm is you've got a nature program being played out. It's got an overlay of illusions. Now here's a funny thing: if you look in a mirror, you can't see what's behind you, but you can see beyond the scope of that mirror. So you could see the whole ceiling behind you or the whole floor behind you. But when that reflection can't do anything until you move, because it's only two-dimensional. It's shallow. But when you go left, it goes right. It appears to be the right way up, but the horizontal axis is going the opposite way. But then when you consider what they say about the eyes, that we flip everything over and everything is upside down, now you see the double cross that we're on. This is some mythology that Scotland actually has a flag and it doesn't. So what it is, it's a blue sky with a cross through it saying you're not having summer. And
no,
those things
Scotland is like you have cloud and rain.
Well, the two white lines that form an X, which is basically saying cancelled, is sort of those things that come out of the back of the planes. I don't want to say the word. It involves chemical and they don't vaporise. They sort of hang and then expand in the sky. I think you know what I mean.
Just to mention, James, we're looking at the video that's playing is manifesting micro in relation to the macro.
Yeah. That's when I go in town, I'm playing a part. I'm being a fisher of men. And what I mean by that is I've neutralised the energy. Actually, I'll give you an exact example. I sat in town. Now, the traffic noise in the background, in my mind, is now been turned into the sound of waves. I'm using the sensation of the sun on the skin. Now I'm in California. Simultaneous to that, I've gone into watching Tower Bridge, being the ironwork at the top being either repaired or built. I've then gone into Battersea Power Station. I'm talking to the stokers in the basement about their working conditions. And I'm also got this sensation I'm sitting under a palm tree or like a bogey tree. So there's 5 realities all going on at the same time. And then I open my eyes and say, oh, we're back here again. It's a bit disconcerting because it's like, well, is that all in the imagination, or have I jumped somewhere else in this multiverse?
I don't know. I read this story about astro travelling, and then there was another programme in England, I don't know if you remember it, where there's a boy and he lived in a house, and then he reckoned the stones were getting closer, and they move a little bit closer to the house. It's a bit like that. And the astro travel, I was on a bus in my dream, and I could see all these people, and I thought, well, all these people are on the bus, and they're having the same dream as me.
Should be. That's a tricky one.
I'm just in their dream. I'm an extra. I mean, at that point, you can, you can start looking at people and digesting what they look like, what they're wearing, stuff like that. But if you're just on a bus, maybe you don't really notice anybody. You can look around, you can see everybody, but you don't really register it all.
Yeah.
But I must be in their dream like they're in mine.
So does that mean we're NPCs in another reality?
Don't know. When I was this year 16 or 17, I did go on a bus, and then I kind of dreamt about it and the people on the bus, and yeah, that was then. But it was a long time ago. But yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, even though I had been on the bus, I'd gone to Eastbourne, and
yeah.
I just remember dreaming about it, and I was thinking they're in. Afterwards, I thought they're in my dream, and I'm in theirs.
Right, possibly, yeah. The trouble is, if we're in the game, we can't think a way out of the game. You can't look from the outside at it when you're in it. And not only that, we don't get a full picture either, because if you think back of your life, there's roughly 8-hour gaps where you're asleep, so it's a broken picture.
Yeah, what's the dream? Is this the dream, or when we're asleep we're somewhere else? But I don't remember my dreams anymore. Not now. Just the moment I might watch a couple of bits, or I'm gone. I don't remember my dreams anymore, but I did used to have dreams.
Yeah. I can't say that I dream very often. I can't even remember the last time now. But saying that...
But in the dreams, when you're there, it's so real.
Yeah.
Even though it's not at all. It's not real at all, but it feels or looks or smells. You can smell it, you can feel it.
Yeah. Well, that also shows...
You can look at it. You can go out of yourself and look at yourself and go back in. You see everything.
It also shows the effect it can have on the physical body. It's a sort of almost like ridiculous, I can't remember exactly where the passage is, about removing the rods from your eye, which sounds ridiculous. I'm thinking like girders and things. But when you think
it's a bridge.
When you think of multi-strand cable, now the iris of the eye, I see that the eye is a two-way traffic. We're doing some sort of electrical, from our feeling, it's coming out through the pupils of the eyes that's sort of overlaying onto this reality. Because one thing I've noticed with this reality, all that have reported wars, famines, and everything, in my physical, external reality, none of that's actually going on. It's not there. It's just gossip and hearsay on the television or radio, or because there's even second-hand gossip by this stage. Oh, Putin's done this, and you know this how? Because you saw it. You've heard a news broadcast. Okay, so you know that's 100% true then.
No, you only know their little game, or a bit of their little game.
Well, haven't
people noticed, James? You might get a week or so off, or whatever's going on, no one says anything, and then, within a few weeks someone lets you know about something. But when you actually look at it, it just goes on and on. Every few weeks there's something else. If it's not petrol, it's toilet paper. If it's not toilet paper, it's baby food. If it's not that, we're at war with somebody. If it's not that, it's this, it's this, it's that, it's this. Oh, whatever it is, there's always a problem. Always! And the news is just so depressing.
Well, one of the most ridiculous stories, in a way, looking back at it, is the Falklands War. Because the backstory is you've got a couple of Argentinian scrap dealers who decide to go across the Falklands and they hoist up a Argentinian flag. Well, I've seen hotels where they've got sort of flags of all the European nations up. So why are we not at war with them then, if that's the premise for going to war? It's so ridiculous.
It doesn't take much, does it? The script is, we're going to war.
1922, 2022.
You can have any excuse you want when you go to war, though. Anyone you want.
I would say you've got a palindrome thing between the Falklands and the Ukraine. You've got the same thing going on. You've got a phony war going on, which is not what it appears to be. So it's played out again. So so what we took in 1982, 2022, 40 years. So bang slap in the middle of that is the marker for that. It's like when you drop a pebble into a pond and the ripples go out and there's equal distance either side. This is what archaic shows. And the beauty of what he's showing with this chronicon and these palindromic markers and the way history is easy to predict once you see the patterns in it. People are all testing this out in their own ways with bits they've got more knowledge on, and it's proving it. So the whole history thing really can be put to bed. It doesn't have to be 100% right, because for what's going to happen from what's happened in the past. And what's even more amazing about it is, from the sort of Genesis story to the flood is 1,656 years. Well, it just so happens that Yahud Vav Hud, the 10th, 6th and 5th letter of the Hebrew, which spells Jehovah, is also the base pairs of the building blocks of DNA of 10, 6, 5, 6. Now, what a coincidence that is. No. It's numeric codes, the definite. It's like, it can be a coincidence. There's an intelligent design behind all of this. The definite. I've proven in drawing things towards myself, the more feeling I put into it, the more instant it happens. If I deny that external 5 senses and I implant a feeling with those same 5 senses inwardly, I don't know how it works, but it seems to then manifest in this reality. And you get things when you need them most. So I don't care if the rest of the world doesn't believe. I know it's true because I've proven it to myself repeatedly.
Once you step out of the matrix, well, you live in the matrix, but in your brain, step out of the matrix, everything changes.
There seems to be a certain amount of freedom.
The reason you can talk like this is you know who you roughly are as a person, James. And a lot of people, I'm not saying people that come to the channel, I just mean a lot of people don't know who they are.
one, it's an incredible leap in the mind to have to take. Two, it can be unpleasant to think, so I'm just a character in a computer game and I'm not even real. But it's like the body is a virtual headset. I don't know how it works. I'm not going down the science route of trying to pull the thing apart, because I'd rather, if it isn't broken, don't try and fix it. This seems to be working. And the macro, the external world has not changed one bit. What has changed is my perception of what I'm looking at.
Mm.
And it's not affecting me in a negative way, because I can just sit up. It's like, I get the joke in this. And I had somebody like, they said, you seem so content. They couldn't get their head around it, and although I tried to explain it to them, because they're still coming from a very material perspective, so it won't make sense. But their idea of a car and a house and whatever is not my idea of wealth. That's material things. But I don't need all that. I don't need all the clutter. There's things I'd still like to change. I'm working on it, but I don't know the timescales of these things. I can say from experiencing it twice that it takes 6 days from having a new phone to getting one in my hand from a position of no money, and just suddenly out of the blue, I've got a phone. That's twice I've done that. Now, a baby we know takes 9 months normally, but anything else I don't know. But the way I see agnostic cube, man goes against nature. Well, look at any product. They're always tested. Why would creation not have an area where you test everything out? And, okay, let's tweak it.
James, why would you put it? I mean, the drinks taste, I like them, but why put whatever it's called, aspartame in drinks when the side effects are so terrible? Why would you do that? What health and safety is in those drinks? None.
Well, same as you've got a new mobile phone, then before you put it out into production, you drop it from 100 foot to see if it'll break. This is just breaking what's the tolerance levels of humanity, really, the physical. It's been created, so let's test it out, let's push it to the limits in every possible way. But if it's a diagnostic zone, well, what about doing positive testing? Oh, that's a familiar term. And what if I find I've got the power to flip the script and I can put out a different polarity? Oh yeah, I'm going to keep testing this. I'm going to test something positive. It doesn't all have to be negative tests. And look how that terminology, I think you find, has been used rather a lot of late. Because again, they're showing the system is still guiding humanity in a very distorted mirror. Lockdown is go within yourself. The face covering.
Yeah, and not be afraid, and not be afraid when you do.
Yeah, but there is nothing tangible to be afraid of.
But we've talked about this before, in a sense. And it works when you've got children, because that keeps you quite busy. But they keep you busy so much that you don't stop and think. And that's what you need to do. You need to stop and think.
Well, I'd say it's the opposite.
One way or the other, that's the going within. But one way or another, those that are into all that, they've got you. If it's through the news or through EastEnders or through films or documentaries that probably are all not real.
But it seems that all of them are.
They're keeping you in the outer realm. I ask people, how do you live? Do you live inside out or outside in? Which way do you live, James?
More inward.
You live inside out.
Yeah, and I sort of interact.
If you're outside in, the only thing that's you want is the holidays and the cars and the news and the films and going out and on and on. When you live inside yourself, so to me you live inside out.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I want to go and sit on a a beach in the West Indies. I can do that in the mind. I don't need somebody's permission. I'm going to pay for a ticket. I'm going to have certain conditions, shall we say, like to get in this particular country, and I'm got all the physical hassle of it, of queuing up at an airport, risking deep brain thrombosis. I can instantly go there in the mind, and that's really freeing. And you can really sort of put yourself where you lose awareness of the physical body, and it's actually quite a jolt when it's like, oh, I'm back here again. Oh, this is a shock. It is like waking from a dream. When you look at a 24-hour day, a third of that roughly is spent in sleep. So what about balancing the other 16 hours? Why do we always have to be chasing our tail all the time? I would personally go for finding a balance, and it's like I could be doing something some of the time, but I also need to then contemplate. I need to analyse the things that have happened externally. What lessons are they teaching me? There's oysters. There's many oysters, but I'm looking for the pearls. So I've got these colour cards for healing. So what the energy I'm putting out a magnetic energy. So if there's anybody wants something explained through these colour cards, and it's wonderful when you see this genuine smile and look of relief, because it's unlocked something in the other person. It makes sense to them. We've taken the worry away from whatever it is, and that's worth doing just for that. That is. There's definitely this really light energy that I can feel that radiates out from them. Like this whole construct, Jason on Archaic's channel calls it a simulacrum, and I think Sandra Spinacci said it's not the right pronunciation, but what I hear in that is how you can change the world with a smile. You can make someone stay. Now, chrome is something that's reflective. So smile a chrome. So if I put out a smile, I'm putting out an energy that's going to come back. I don't have to have any expectations. The fun is not having expectations, and it just comes. It's like, wow, I got bought some biscuits earlier and give it to me. It's lovely. Like, oh, that's nice.
Yes.
It's reciprocal. What I've got from the food bank, I've got flapjacks that are over a week old. They're a bit too brittle. But I found that starlings like granola, and they like the raisins and currants, and the pigeons like the oats. And the pigeons will actually eat out of my hands now.
Oh, that's nice.
As soon as I sit down, they're my feather friends. They're brilliant. They've all got little individual personalities and things. And then the starlings come down. And it's like, you prefer eating that to that. So I sort of try and throw the food, the things they like. But I put something out into this, sort of freely given. And I might have somebody buy me a cup of coffee or give me a sandwich or something. And it's like, this is a beautiful exchange. And it's an extension of, we breathe out carbon, the trees turn it back into oxygen. It's reciprocal, and that's an amazing eternal loop that's created there.
Yeah.
And I find that all, even a tree when it reaches the end of its life and it falls over, it creates life for insects, breaks down. It's like all those negative things given to Earth. Because the tree's actually giving itself its physical body back to the earth. It's now dead, so it's sort of, you could say it's like a negative energy. So this is why it's talked about transmuting and writing down things you forgive yourself for, and then burning them, give them to the on a moon ceremony to the air, give them to the earth, let Mother Earth take them all. Because anything that decays is taken back into Earth. So what about in the metaphysical? We can get rid of our negatives. We can put down the those heavy bags, and it's like, I ain't carrying this shit. Someone told me I was stupid years and years ago, and I've carried that ever since. It's like, why am I carrying that? So they're metaphysical sort of suitcases that you don't need to carry. And that is like saying a great weight lifted off the shoulders. You're not carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. So even that depiction, I think was it Ats in Greek, carrying the world on his back. Again, it's probably just a depiction of a figure of speech that's been anthropomorphized into a physical caricature.
Oh, someone's messaging, sorry. Yeah. Well, everything's to do with symbols, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, so now you're looking for a particular, in the case of Atlas, you're looking for a man of a sort of between with short hair and a beard and not wearing a lot. And so we've got to look for this, that's what that character's going to look like. Yeah. It's not going to look like anything else. But we can all carry the weight of the world on our shoulders if we feel that way. But the other thing is as well, if this is a diagnostic zone, in any experiment you have a control medium. So this is why I feel that some people won't wake up. They're part of the program, what people call NPCs. They will do all the, yes, I'll take this, yes, I believe that. That's a control medium. If we follow this plan, this is what's going to happen. So it's like a diagnostic.
Yeah, so what does that mean then? We're all in the garage for servicing.
Well, that's basically what colds and flus are. It's a reset. The body is sending you a signal to say you need to rest for this process to go through quicker. It's like a multi-complex, say, cinema, and suddenly all the fire exits open at once. That's the pause in the skin. That's just ejecting everything that's accumulated and letting it go. There's enough now to sort of jettison. So for the body to eliminate everything, it's like it needs to rest. So it's not an illness. It's not something like that. It's not something to be frightened of. It's part of a natural process. Just like trees will shed their leaves when there's a season change, and then they grow new leaves. That's exactly what we do. But look how that's been spun into a fear story right around the world in recent years.
Everything's fear stories, isn't it?
You've also got your characters as well. You've got people with like white coats and pens in the
James,
pocket.
we're on the telly as well now because YouTube is on the telly. People could, if you just go to YouTube, you can put my channel in and I can see myself on the telly.
Well, wouldn't it be ironic if people are so system programmed that now they've seen it on the telly, they might listen?
I might believe it and realise that yeah.
That would be ironic. That's quite an amusing thought, actually.
We're not as big as like, an actor or the Prime Minister or anything like that, but we're on the telly just the same.
Yeah.
It's funny that, isn't it, when you think about it, because YouTube have got a TV channel now, haven't they?
Well, I can honestly say that I've been in Mad Max 1, 2 and 3. If people choose to think of the blockbuster films rather than the videos that I've entitled with those titles, that's up to them. But I'm doing what the system does. I'm telling a half-truth then, aren't I? It's all the system does. It tells you half the truth and then mixing, just confuse
I think they're changing it so much. It's just impossible to go back and find the truth anymore now. It's layer upon layer, and even when you get more information, it just gives you more information. It doesn't really sort out.
Now there's a classic case. What's the letter right in the middle of truth?
You.
Yeah. The truth is what you prove to yourself and what you feel inside. Like, the only debt you ever have is what you owe yourself to find out who you truly are. And that realization that you've got the power to cope. We're supposed to be co-creators. Well, you've got a creation out there, so we're obviously meant to co-create within it. So there seems to be rather a lot of negative co-creation going on. So and just that with a quite a bit of positive co-creation, as far as I can see.
Yeah.
I don't worry about. I don't worry about the outside world. I don't go out there with, I'm going to make such a significant difference. I'm going to change the entire world, and I'm going to stop every war and every poverty and famine and everything else. That's ridiculous. This is meant to be like this. This is, like, as far as I can see, is a diagnostic cube. But it doesn't mean we can't have fun in the cube. Maybe the higher self me will be able to take its virtual body set off and realise it's like, yeah, what a fantastic game. I want to go around again now.
So you're Neo then?
Well, it's not something unique to me. It's something that within all of us. You know it when it sort of happens to you. When you have any experience, it's like there's an inner knowing. It's like your best guide on everything is that gut feeling. It's just strange coincidence. It's also the house of red, so it's Bethlehem. It's the solar plexus, which is the place of the sun. So when you look at it now as well, in terms of the macro, you'll find that the sun goes past the earth being the heart. But is the body flat? When it's laying down on the horizontal axis, it is. But it's also vertical as well. It's everything and it's nothing. And this macro
is that what the cross
version
is
of
to do with? Lying flat, standing up. It's a cross.
Yeah, well, it's an expression of many things. You've got the transverse way, you've got the transverse, and you've got the linear. Linear being time. It's amazing when you think in 4 days, every cell in your stomach has relined itself. You're continuously becoming a new physical being over a period of months. That's so imperceptibly slow because of time. But then when you close time up, when you see a baby and a grandparent, and it's like, well, that is going to become that with time. It's the same. Look like very different species.
Yeah.
So I can say I actually love it here. I'm loving this experience. It's actually really good. I'm finding it really funny.
I don't like it, James.
I do.
It's a challenge,
I'd say,
isn't it? It's a mental challenge.
Yeah. Well, the way I've likened it to is, if you've got an art studio and you've got, say, like a still life thing on the middle of a table, those artists are going to be seeing the same thing but from different perspectives. So, like when it's saying cast your net sign, that's a shift of polarity. There's your pole shift within yourself. So instead of looking out on the world and, oh shit, this is a horrible place, it's like, actually it's really beautiful, but it's got this funny film that's been messed up a bit that's showing me some really crazy stuff.
But every time you work it out, it doesn't really move you on that much further. And sometimes almost like the film Saw. Like you think you're there, you're touching the button. Oh, but you can't ever get out, except dying, of course. Well, from this realm.
Well, maybe this is a cube within another cube within another cube. I really don't know. But maybe it's a vast computer.
Well, are we Tron then?
This is just a level.
Are we Tron?
Well, maybe we go from Mario to Super Mario. I don't really know.
There'll be this video game of you soon. You and your stick, and you'll be going. It'll be a video game. There'll be James on the front. I'm saving you. Come, I'm going to save you.
I hope not. What a horrible thought.
No, I'm joking. But it is a bit weird. I sent you a little bit of footage today, and that looks just like my son. My oldest son.
It's quite I think that's highly possible.
It says
this is all a
1900s,
simulation.
but the video I was breaking it down anyway because it's not right. But there was my son suddenly. I was like, wow, he even walks like my son.
That wouldn't surprise me if this is a simulation. It can produce anything like this. It's really
AI, you mean? It's the AI running everything.
Yeah. Well, it does seem there's like two factions. I have to agree with this. There seems to be something that's always guiding humanity, but there's another thing that's trying to go against it. That sort of puts the whole Anunnaki thing back on the map as well, really. Is humanity caught in a crossfire or a family feud, really? It could be being played out as a computer game and settled as a computer game. Maybe humanity at some distant time evolved to a point where they don't actually fight physical wars and they do all in simulations. Who knows? It would actually make sense then, although it seems very real to us, but when you consider that the five senses are on such narrow bandwidths of perception, and there's so much ultraviolet or infrared that, I mean, you can't see radio broadcasts, you can't see television broadcasts, you can't see Wi-Fi, but it's there.
No, we don't, and even though it might affect you, you don't really feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it can affect people, but you don't really feel all that either.
No.
The frequencies. They're all going on around you, aren't they?
Well, that's all anything is, really, whether it be light or sounds. They're on different spectrums, different frequencies. Again, the way Ken Wheeler explained it about magnetism is a really, and the way he describes things is absolutely brilliant. You've got the radio, you've got the modulation, you've got the frequency broadcaster, and you've got the radio station. So if you jump on the radio, there's no signal in the radio. It's coming from somewhere else. Maybe call it our higher self.
Well, I did know somebody who had a radio that worked free energy. It just worked, and it was the heartbeat, and it was really bizarre. It was like, you know, when you sit down, your heartbeat goes dun 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 dun. The moment you stand up and walk around, it starts going dun 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 dun, and that's what it sounded like, just like that, like we were living inside someone.
Well, it's an inhibitor. It's not actually a pump.
He said that it changes, the heartbeat changes when America gets bad weather, and when there's really bad weather, it changes.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
But it's really weird because this radio wasn't attached to anything, and he could still pick it up. I made a video about it, probably about 2017, 16 or something.
Well, I go with a sort of, if you can't see one way, look at the opposite. So comparing, say, the micro and the macro, people will use an expression when, let's say, a relationship or a marriage comes to an end, it feels like the world's come to an end. But think about what actually happens in the physical body. There's a feeling or an emotion. It ends up as coming physically expressed as tears. Now, before they actually spill out as waters from above, they cover the entire lens of the eye until the capacity is too great, and then they come out as tears. Now, the way our BITCHUTE Channel talks about this vapor canopy collapsed, I have an idea that these waters, this flood, is some sort of electrical or magnetic sticking of the water to the dome. And then we've got a switch off of power. So all this water sent of it. Because the old calendars are on Draconis as not Polaris. So when something's switched back on, it's now flipped to Polaris. Maybe that's what when they say about the tilt. I don't know in terms of degrees. It wouldn't surprise me if between Draconis and Polaris is 23.5 degrees, for example.
Right.
But also what throws all the calendars out, because they're working in days of 360 for a year. We're now working in 365 and a quarter, so the calendars are... This is why the Annus Mundi calendar is so good, because you can use all the other dates, the Mayan calendar and all the other ancient calendars. They all fit around this, and they're all broken segments of this entire calendar. Because when it's an entire calendar, you start seeing the patterns and the markers with the isometric palindromes of events in history. It's like, oh, that happened then. And it's like multiples of 138 or 552. And it's like, now that's removed a vowel off of that. That now makes perfect sense.
Well, some very interesting thoughts and stuff here, James, today. We're living in a cube. We're living in a cube. That would make sense as well. But anyway, yeah. Or a pyramid.
It's often described
somehow.
Wearing the... Well, you've got your pyramids everywhere. They're big business.
Everywhere, but those aren't the good ones, though, are they?
No.
Or it's being wrong. It's being wrongly used.
Yeah, it's fair to say I think that they're not in our best interest.
No, I'm not sure. You know, in some senses, here is so beautiful, lots of lovely things, and in another sense, I think it's quite evil here.
The biggest contrast is when you're in the woods, and then all that television world vanishes. And then there's another world. There's birds singing. There's sunshine. There's electrolytes in the grass, which is a food.
I know. I did something like this yesterday. I was out, and then I didn't really want to do the journey, and then I had to stop at the traffic lights, and then I could hear all these birds singing, and I had to say thank you for that, because I wouldn't have heard the birds singing otherwise. But I wasn't expecting to hear these birds. They were just really chirping, and I got to the lights, and I thought, wow. Well, I wouldn't have heard those if I hadn't done the journey, so thank you. Bit like that, isn't it, really?
Because it's such a dramatic contrast, and this is what this realm all seems to be about. It's like, if we come from a realm of perfection, how are you going to know what evil is? How are you going to know what light and dark is unless you come into somewhere where it's played out? So I feel it is all within this. I mean, even look at the narratives on things when they talk about the Antarctic and all this about the Russians and the US were firing rockets up. That's pretty much saying you're in an enclosed system. And there's no, you're in like a jail. And
open air boot camp, James. Open air boot camp.
Well, it's a life sentence from birth to death.
It is a bit weird, you know, like when you're younger, it doesn't feel like that. But as I've got older, I've thought, what? I've had my children now, and now I'm just waiting to die. Oh, great.
Well, Hollywood is actually a very good teacher for this one, because they've shown this so many times. If you're a successful actor on this world stage, now you're presented with a bad script. That's the death of your career as an actor. And I think it's fair to say that we get an awful lot of terrible scripts, like history and religions.
No, they're all the same, aren't they? They're all bad.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, there's no difference. You've got priests in fish hats, you've got priests in white coats. They're all peer-reviewed. And if you don't come up with something that they all agree with, you're shunned from that community and ridiculed. People like Walter Ike and the 111 hertz cures cancer in this cave. And he was penalised for daring to show that humans can self-heal. It doesn't make money. You're not feeding the machine.
No, we were healing ourselves. Oh, I've got a frog now. Well, I think we were, you know, somewhere in maybe late 1800s, we were healing ourselves, salt seas, going to Turkish baths, all sorts of things. So we were sorting ourselves out.
Well, even in 100 years, I saw this as a Facebook post. It's like 90% of the foods we have today, they didn't have 100 years ago. 90% of the illness, diseases we have today, years ago. It's like, that's a strange coincidence, isn't it? Could it be all the food with barcodes on are not good for us? It's
I mean, even though we all have done it and sometimes do it, it's best to have natural, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's all, at the same time it is being made more and more difficult to actually do it. Just on the weather, depending on what you believe
all
about
the time,
the weather
James.
manipulation. I can harvest rainwater, but what's in the rainwater? Is it actually? Have I got to be fearful of the chemicals in it? I actually hear well a smoke, and they're quite blatant and tell you there's 70 added substances that may cause cancer. So maybe I'm doing like nature and I'm adapting. And by smoking, I'm actually making this physical vessel more harmonious with the changing environment. So I have no fear of whatever, because I can't exactly get a leaf blower and blow the clouds away. They're still there. I can't change them in that way, but I can change how I feel about them. And how you feel inside definitely affects the health of the body.
Yeah, I have a book up there. I probably told you about it, James. Two hearts are better than one, and this guy he just wants sex, probably. That's it. But the girl wants to have a relationship, and it puts him in this to and fro, and then he locks himself in the house and grows a beard, and through that he realises he's got issues with his dad, and then what it is it's like he's going, no, I don't want to go to the beach, it's always cloudy there. But then later on he realised the only clouds were in my brain.
Yeah.
He made he was going to make clouds because he didn't want to go, but then he worked all this stuff out. That's why two hearts are better than one. These people, right, they annoyed themselves a bit. They tied themselves to each other, and then they're explaining like they hated each other. And then suddenly, like nearly 24 hours in, they went to harmony, and that's where they stayed.
Well, there's a saying that I don't think it's one to be taken literal and physically about burying your differences. So you get again, it's a biblical quote. You should only kill that which has no right to live. So that's all those things, those monsters we build up, the fears that we feed. So yeah, they should be killed off. So they should be put to rest. And I'm going to say from personal experience, I've never felt happier. To a materialist perspective, my life would probably look.
It's a bit of a shame they didn't have, I'm a bit of a smoker and, smoked many years of my life, but it's a shame they didn't put the same things on alcohol, isn't it? The warnings on alcohol.
Yeah.
Just on cigarettes, which they get a lot of money from on taxes.
Well,
So basically they're making it so expensive that maybe people are struggling, because it's about £12 or £13 a pack of fags now. I mean, oh my God.
It's ridiculous. What I'd say with alcohol is just watch people come out of a nightclub when they're fully intoxicated with alcohol, and look at the way they behave, and ask yourself, is that the right way to behave? I mean, whiskey is well and truly linked to aggressive behaviour. I think you could almost say that's a fact. Okay, not everybody is going to be affected in the same way, but generally, alcohol, or whiskey in particular, leads to violence. Gin, how strange the word gin is, like the Indian demon, D-J-I-N-N, gin, same sound but a different spell. And it's notorious that gin is a depressant and puts you into almost a suicidal mode. They're called spirits for a reason.
Mm.
They don't seem to.
Yeah, you're not the only one talking about that. I had to hang out with Claudio the other day. I'm sure he was mentioning exactly the same thing, James.
I mean, I don't even like the smell of it.
I have to say, I don't drink anymore, but if I did have a drink, I would love a gin and tonic. But I like them where they're not... Oh, the video's finishing. Hang on, we finished. We just go to one more. We're going now for an hour and 15 minutes, just letting you know. Let's go to another one. You make it maybe slightly weaker. It's like having you could drink it like water. You make it that bit too strong. It's like you never want one of those. I don't really, it's better when they're just weak. They're slightly weaker and, they're nice, but I don't drink, so. I had an alcoholic boyfriend years ago, and the more he drank, the less I drank.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it actually makes alcohol a very tiny amount in the stomach, which is to do with digestion. But the thing with the naturally made alcohol inside us, it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. That's a big topic in relation to, which I'll probably best not mention because of the senses. But even the words sensor, so my senses are not sore. But we're obviously touching nerves on things we say, so their senses are very sore. So it's like, we don't want you making a connection. But this is a theme, it's all about disconnection from spirit. That's been the theme all the way through the last few years. That seems to be, if you look at history, it was more of a physical assault. Now it's a mental assault, and it all seems to be aimed at the spirit and the body.
Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. Or they've done.
So you don't have the gut feeling something's not right, even though you haven't got any evidence to tell you
I think whatever it is, it's been there since I was a child. I remember feeling like this as a little child. But obviously I didn't really know what it was, but I just knew it's been there since I was a child.
Well, Santa Spinacci talks about is shown across language, so it's expressed as gut feeling. Well, gut is God, which is God, so it's a God feeling. It's coming from the gut, from the God.
Mm.
So it's pointing to exactly the same thing that's spoke of in the terms of chakras, in the terms of healing, spiritual. And if you think about it, the stomach on the physical body is roughly in the centre where the solar plexus is, from head. But as far as organs go, the centre is the heart, about raising oneself. And then, as I explained about the capital letter T as being I at its highest level, the following letter that is often comes behind that is H for His, God in human form, like thee, thy, thou, and thought, which is a conflation of thou ought. That's the thing you're meant to do, find out who you are. It all points back to the same thing. So
yeah,
to me,
you need to find out who you are as a person. I've been talking about that a lot lately.
There's the conceptual truth of that. But then it's going that next step of, I'll go with what the gut instinct is guiding me to, regardless of what the mind is saying. This would be, I bought a radio for £10, and the mind was saying, you can't afford that, that's stupid, that's extravagant waste. But it's more than paid for itself in entertainment for the music, which is fortunately not on very often on Radio 3. But within 2 days of buying this radio, I had this thought, I'd like to hear a Brockhurst symphony. I got my wish. How beautiful is that? And that's through the system.
Yeah, but you're allowed to have nice things here. We're not here to be punished.
Yeah, but that has come via the system. That's not come from the purely spiritual. It's worked its way through the system and to me, and that I have gratitude for that, because that's beautiful. It's like that also tells me that I can walk that path between both sides, good and bad. I mean, my conclusion to how to get through this is do the unthinkable, and I don't. The unthinkable. Oh, I'd never have thought of that.
Person, James. For everybody who doesn't know, last year James stayed at my house for about, I don't know how many weeks it was, but and you're not that kind of person, James.
No, I've got everything to live for, as it were. Because so I can stay neutral, and I can draw from the good and the bad. I mean, if this comes down to just go with a snarky story as being the truth, so you've basically got a warring faction within one family, which you can express as good and evil, would not the unthinkable be going in and saying, okay, I think we need to have a meeting between the two of you and meet in the middle here? It's like, if you talk to anybody of a religious persuasion, oh, you're doing a deal with the devil. No, you're not doing a deal with the devil. You're finding a middle path between the good and what is perceived as good and bad. But if it's a diagnostic zone, is there anything really bad? When you think in terms of really stretch the imagination, get rid of any barriers now, and it's a multiverse. I'd rather have something what would be perceived as evil and contained in a small area than allowed to spill out that would cause chaos in everything. That's just my perspective on it.
Well, I've really enjoyed chatting today. You said some very interesting things, James.
Thought-provoking. Because it's like, I haven't got the answers. The more I look into, the more I know nothing. And this manifestation, I know nothing about how it works. I can take guesses at it, but I do appreciate that it does work. And it's what Neville Goddard says, test it for yourself. You've got nothing to lose by testing any of these things. If it's a diagnostic zone, it's a diagnostic zone. I mean, look at the diagram gnostic, basically. Giving you a blueprint of how to do things, how to manifest. Oh, that's crazy. You can't magic something out of thin air. Oh, actually, yes, you can. The phone is the proof alone.
Yeah. Well, we should all be growing and learning, shouldn't we, all the time?
Yeah, definitely. But of course, for a seed to grow, the soil has got to be fertile. The conditions have got to be right. So it's sorting out the internal feelings, because you get that moment where it's like, I see it now. Now it makes sense to me. There's that spark. That seed is now sprouted. Then, of course, it's testing it out, and don't just go straight with that, and that's the ultimate truth. It's like, no, this is multi-stranded. There's so many aspects to this, and so many. But just if it feels right, go with it. If it works for you.
You have one type of person who just is a sheep, an NPC, whatever they call them, NPC, whatever it is. And then when you start thinking, do you see where you go? It's endless. Yeah, sometimes you sort some of those things out in yourself even more.
Yeah, you got a predetermined path within this matrix with a certain group of humans. It's like they're going to flip all the SES switches all the way through, right from beginning to end, and they test out what happens if that happens. See, I can't help but see the proportion similarities between those classic grey aliens and when you look at an ultrasound of a fetus. And it's like, maybe humanity did take technology a bit too far, and they've got rid of...
What, we're the aliens? We're the aliens?
Well, I feel that that would probably be one of the earlier versions of human, probably below ground, and probably don't like sunlight, because it would have been a very different world with this vapor canopy. But they've synthesized themselves to such a point, because everything does seem to indicate to me that it's all a filtering system, looking for an imagination in certain individuals that I think they're going extinct, and that they're in dire straits, which may explain the lengths that things are done to try and reverse the process. I'd say even what is called the elites they're still part of the test through the inbreeding, and staying within certain families.
So basically, James, we're a farm.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, built with the pH is very significant in this realm. But it's funny, it's the same sound again. So, I definitely see. I do see a pharmacy. Because they're not called chemists anymore. They're called pharmacies.
Yes. Oh, no. Let me out of here. I want to go. No, I don't. It's not that. I want to leave the plane we live on, but I just don't want to be here with this lot.
Yeah. Well, look at the Latin. I think it's Latin. It's either Latin or Greek. The different what the original root word of chemist and pharmacy is, and that's a huge clue. And of course, one is nature, and the other one is based on the oil industry. One is a synthetic copy of the other.
It's like they need us, but we're worthless in the same thing, in the same breath. They need us, but we're worthless to them.
They need us and make us feel like we're worthless. But
you think though, it takes millions of sperm to make a human being, and you're the one that won.
Yeah.
So you're a winner.
I'm in for the long run on this one. See this right the way through. Because I don't want to be a sinner. A sin is anything you create in your mind and you miss the mark and you don't achieve it. So I've set myself quite a task.
Yeah, but you can't be perfect all the time. Remember that one, James. We're all weak sometimes, or whatever it is. Or get angry, but you know, that happens every now and again. But as long as you're basically a balanced person, that's brilliant.
Well, it's not about, this is the thing when they talk about death of the ego. That would be ridiculous. It gives you your individual personality. It's not getting rid of all those negative emotions. It's acknowledging when they come up and recognising them and saying, I'm triggered by this. Now, what is triggering me? Belief in something that and do I know that belief?
Well, I think you know above anybody, like when it's layers of things, like where we live, what they're doing to us, and when you realise some of that stuff, it just changes you as a person, and you see things differently.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, well, there's anger or there's whatever. I don't really want that one coming to the surface. I don't want a mutiny.
Yeah, but you can't be perfect. Every now and again, we have a little temper tantrum. We're only big kids.
Yeah.
We're allowed every now and again, as long as you don't hurt someone too much.
Well, I try and release it when I'm on my own.
But not all the time. If you're doing it, something wrong.
At the same time as well, you've got to have boundaries as well, because if you're continuously giving, this world has created.
Yeah, I feel a bit like that. But then, because just even for meeting a boyfriend. But then, if I put the walls up, I've changed who I am as a person.
Yeah.
So it's a bit tricky, that one, because I know what you mean. Like, you're too vulnerable otherwise.
It's that fine line between that's acceptable, but that's gone a little bit too far. It's finding that balance. If you look at the astrological sign for Libra, it's a woman, so it's representing divine feminine. She's blindfolded. She's weighing up in feeling. It's not from the external sight. It's an inward, and this is with everything. we've got a micro version of a universe inside us. So movements, it's like no wonder the bodies interact with it. It's like, whoa, definitely feel. Like, even if I don't know the name of the planet, or because I'm not that. I only got a very sort of very sort of loose overview about astrology and what these different planets and things represent. And there's all of course there's as well. There's all that to take into consideration. But it's just acknowledging it's like my body's feeling a bit off today, but it's still not mentally. It's not affecting the feeling. I acknowledge that. Okay, I'll let the body's telling me it needs to rest. So I'll go with that. I'm in a position where I can. I'm not being made to go to work at set hours that don't suit me.
Mm.
So I've got a certain amount of freedom with a micro freedom within a macro background. Does that make sense? Because there is nowhere where, I mean, a public park. What would happen if I put a tent up there and now live in this park? I think I'd get moved on. So how public is this public park? And so I have no freedom. I can't just live anywhere.
Not really. You don't really have any freedom except inside your head.
Yeah, exactly. So I can escape and I can absorb. It's a mental food. I mean, if you want to stuff 20 Big Macs down, fine. If you want to absorb 24-hour, BBC News and digest that, then good luck to you, because I don't. That would be. Both of them would make me feel rather sick.
Yes, James, yes.
I mean, even the play on words, the dark humour of it, when you see it for what it is, a drive-through.
Yeah, I imagine sometimes I go to bed thinking, it'd be really great if I could buy an island and then all the empaths and the really awake ones, they can come and live there. And we say, it's our land, stay away, don't come here. Unless you're totally, unless you've really woken up.
Yeah, it's just the sick joke of it all. I mean, if you've got the stomach constitution of a seagull, then yeah, eat loads of junk food because you can drive it through and out your body. But humans do not have this capacity.
They've got the Chinese eating plastic rice, haven't they now?
Yeah. Well, again, it's a play on a spiritual message because it's about expanded consciousness. But it's been turned physical and into an expanded waistline, which is waste. It's now accumulating in the body. It can't digest it, so it's expanding. This area it's incredible. Talk about clogged up lymphatic systems in people, and it's like, are you going to eat more of that? But no. If that's what they want to do, that's up to them. They're not happy. They're lying to themselves. They know they're not happy, but they're not honest enough to admit it and think, I don't want to live my life like this anymore. I want to have fun. That doesn't mean at everybody else's expense, but I want to change the way my life is so I'm not feeling depressed, miserable. A lot of it is input. It's input from the food. It's input from watching.
Yeah.
An input from what?
What did I miss? Did I miss something?
I said an input from what you smoke.
Oh right. Yeah. Okay.
It helps. Physically, it does help. It takes the edge of things. I'm not advocating it here. I'm just saying.
Maybe that's how you break the frequency.
Well, when you see in these war films, they've got this thing about closing people's the eyes on corpses, because when you actually go through that experience of leaving the human vessel, The eyes look up and towards the third eye. And like, if you go cross-eyed and look up, you start flooding the brain with natural DMT, and it starts a shutdown process. So I wouldn't try it. You look at anything we've got in this world. Take something as ordinary as a chair. It is built in a certain way based on the dimensions of a human body, on average. Likewise, the technology. When you do a reset on the phone, it seems like nothing's happening, but it's all going on inside, and it's springing back, coming back to life, and then let there be light, the screen lights up. It's based on us.
Yeah.
So, when you metaphorically find that red button to do a great reset on the micro, I'd say press it. And just take a leap of faith and press it and see what happens. Your life will change overnight. That's what's happened to mine. And it's wonderful.
Well, I'm glad that you're so happy, James.
Well, it's the other thing that it highlights, the few people that have been here, the first thing they say is, you've got no television. That tells me all I need to know about it. It's like you can't see a world with not having a television. So you're obviously not content in yourself. You can't just sit there and contemplate things. You're looking externally all the time. You're being fed a load of crap. It's like, so I don't have many visitors. But the thing is, what can I talk to them about? They're not going to talk on the same level, this sort of level of conversation.
Yeah, we need to talk more though, don't we, James? We need to talk more to each other.
Yeah, but it's only any good if they're on the frequency. If you start talking to people about imagination creates reality, they're going to say, oh, that's not possible, you're mad. Or, I'm going to have to, I've been dying to do this. I do it like Ken Wheeler does. But I've got a PhD, I know what I'm talking about. No, very good brain for remembering numbers. That doesn't mean you know what you're talking about, because you're coming from a material perspective. You're not even looking at the esoteric. That's not even in your equation. So, that just means that they've been programmed more. pH.
Yeah, and those people don't seem to know very much anyway.
pH is the short abbreviation for balance, and they've got a D behind that, so they're imbalanced. That's the death of their balance. They're only seeing it from one perspective.
Look at things, doesn't it, James?
Yeah, it's like I've invested years in going to and studying this. I'm an expert. I've got a PhD. You know jack shit. It's like, well, where in your science can you show me an equation for love or for hatred or for any emotion? Where's the equation for that one? You can't quantify it. You can't go to a surgeon and say, I'm feeling sad. Can you open me up and take sadness out of me? I don't want this feeling anymore. And I don't think there's any surgeon that can actually pinpoint sadness as a material thing. But does that mean it doesn't exist? I think this is what the inner knowing is. You all know your own interpretation of what sadness is like. So you know that's real. No one can tell you otherwise, but it doesn't have form to it. It's expressed materially through tears but the actual thing itself has no physical form. But it's real.
We can't even pinpoint what a soul is, can we, really?
Well, apparently it weighs, I forget the figure, there is a difference in weight when the body dies, apparently. I think it's something like, I don't know if it's 2 ounces. It's not very much anyway.
Wow.
But there is that, which is incredible. But I listened to, I got sent a link, it's a Greg Braden one, and a lot of people will say, oh, he's mainstream, he's a jolly or whatever, he's a troll, but it's not that clear cut. Everything's like a checkerboard, but there's an awful amount of grey. And It makes sense, and it's basically pointing to the same thing, that we are electromagnetic beings.
Yeah, we are. We've got our own electromagnetic field anyway, around us.
Definitely. You can actually see, well, I can. Certain people, you see that light in their eyes. It's not a physical light. There's something you can't even really describe. There's a sparkle or something non-physical that you can detect that defies any material explanation. I mean, most people, I think, they can walk into a room. If there's been an argument in that room between other people, they sense an atmosphere. Not a word has been said. They're not aware that there's been an argument, but it's like, ooh, a bit of an atmosphere in there. And people can detect that. So this is really just extending that awareness and perception. Because you've got 7 internal senses. You've got your 5 external ones which you can use internally, but you've got instinct and intuition as well. So the greater is on the inside.
Yeah. The journey to yourself, the most important one you've got to do.
Well, again, the clue is in the description, human being. Well, this system seems to like getting us, but what's happened to the being? The being is just taking time out for yourself to, if you're feeling stressed or anything, deep breathing. Going back to the Buddha thing again, the belly, it's breathing from the belly. Slow, controlled, deep breaths is a wonderful way of just changing how you feel inside yourself. It's the only way you can really communicate with the body in a very direct way. It's the only way to get to communicate to the other organs is by changing the way you breathe, and that works. I don't do it enough. I should do more of this, if I'm really honest. But when I have done it, I know how I feel afterwards, and I feel a hell of a lot better physically. And yoga, gentle exercises that you're not pushing yourself to. It hurts, but I've got to push myself more. It's like, if it hurts, stop doing it. It takes time to sort of loosen up the body, loosen up the spine, get rid of all the stresses of the day. But it's all about how much time we allot, how we spend our time, our true wealth.
Yeah, you've got to go in yourself, and you do need time for yourself. James, we've been going now for nearly 1 3/4 hours.
Yeah. Time.
There's never enough time to explain anything, is there?
This is the thing, because you can't sum anything up in a very short, simple sentence with all of this.
No, we can always come back and add to it if you want.
Yeah, so that's sort of my sort of
It's just because
destiny.
you're superhuman and very intelligent. Not everybody is.
I
don't mean that rudely. I mean, some people, they think, wow, that's deep, isn't it? They say things like that.
I just look at things, and maybe just the way my brain works, I look at things in a different way. I mean, memory is like looking at impressionist paintings now. It's foggy and blurred and faded. And people said, you got dementia. It's like, yeah, I've got dementia. I'm going in different dimensions all the time. You twisted that way. It's something to be feared. It's not. Nothing to be feared. It's the mind is expanding. And I couldn't remember yesterday either on this one. There's a Pink Floyd song, and it's a talking vocal line that starts. It says, I know that I'm mad. I've always been mad. I've been mad for years. Well, mad is insane. Big clue is insane. You're sane inside. There's no chaos. You're not feeling chaotic. You're not feeling in fight or flight. You're actually very sane inside. And yeah, I feel wonderful.
Well, that's excellent. I'm glad you do, James.
Well, it's not. I don't want this to come across I'm bragging. I'm better than everybody else.
No, I'm glad that you're happy and feeling relaxed, and you've explained how you've done it, and hopefully other people will listen, and it works for them. You've got to find the way. There's loads of traffic out there. You've got to work it out the way it works for you. But yeah.
I mean, if you, like I said yesterday on the video, if you were to go with all these different sort of warm-up techniques, you'd spend 8 hours preparing. And it's like, just find the one that feels right to you, and if it works for you, go with it. Diagnostic zone, experiment.
And the way it goes is you can change your mind if you want.
Yeah, you're experimenting on yourself. But you're not using any scalpel, or you're not cutting anything, and you're not taking bits off or adding bits on in the physical. So you're just exploring yourself, and yeah, I feel that works for me. I feel good.
I'm really pleased, James. Really pleased. Yeah, I think we should end now. Not because we're actually talking about very good stuff, but I think you should come back and I'll get you on. Well, you said last time that you were feeling very good. Do you still feel good?
Yeah.
But I very much appreciate your time, James. You and me have talked quite a lot for years now, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've done our Victorian find. I'm still doing more and more of it, but we did that when we saw it was all not real. And we've talked about quite a few different subjects over the years. Different people.
Yeah, it's quite a sort of an eye-opener to like, oh, CGI is nothing new then. It's been going on a long, long time.
Yeah, that's the sad bit, really. That they're keeping us in the dark about how, how much technology they've really got and stuff.
But you've hit the nail on the head. What I've been describing, where am I going for answers? I'm going in the dark. They're guiding you in a very twisted way, but telling you in a very distorted manner. But there's still a truth in that. It's like we're keeping you in the dark, well, that's the dark you want to be, because that old adage about it's in the total darkness you see the smallest amount of light first. I think that's brilliant. It's almost like, well, that's what they're presenting, but I can decode what they're really saying, and they reverse speech in it, and it's like, now it makes sense. It's like, nah, you can keep that idea, or it's like, thanks very much, thanks for that.
Yeah, they can keep their ways. We're finding different ways now. We talk to different people, etc., etc. We're doing it differently.
The magical illusions no longer work.
But, you'll come back and have another hangout soon, won't you, James? You never say no to me. Do you, James?
No.
Yeah, you said that's no, you don't mean that. Anyway,
I just got that down. This whole Matrix, the way it's having a joke.
Have you got any because obviously we better finish now, really, James. But because I often find about an hour, but we've been going for nearly 2 hours, so hopefully everybody's still with us and had been listening. But have you got any final thoughts as we're leaving this hangout?
I can pause it, don't have to digest it in one chunk. Yeah, just sort of. Like when you plan a journey to go somewhere, you take the shortest route. So if you feel neutral about that external world, you make it a much smoother journey. So that what you project out has got more chance of bringing what you desire towards you. And I just hope that desire is not something selfish that's going to harm anybody else. I mean, if you want to manifest a mansion. Just don't make somebody homeless and chuck them out of the home for that mansion.
I think as people generally we should learn to be more caring.
Yeah.
To each other.
Yeah. Well, actions speak louder than words. So if the actions I'm showing is contentedness. Maybe more and more people think, what's the secret here? Why is he so content? He shouldn't be content based on what I can see. it's like.
Yeah, but they're not
the
you,
picture
and
of
they
it.
don't live in your shoes or anything. So, yeah, and
No.
those ones that say that are probably the really unhappy ones.
But
Yeah, mind your own business. I'll do it my own way.
hopefully they can formulate the questions to start finding it for themselves.
So basically, that's it, isn't it, James? You've got to find yourself.
Yeah, you can't do it for them. You can say, well, this worked for me, but it's up to them if they try it. They very well to exercise. So like, no, I don't want to do that, or yeah, I'll give it a try. It's all about taking a leap into the unknown. Otherwise, we'd never go anywhere, would we?
Yeah, life's a bit like that, isn't it? But well, you'll come back and talk soon, won't you?
Yeah.
It's only a continuation. We never say goodbye or anything like that because in I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks you'll be coming back to do another one.
Well, there's never a goodbye. It's eternal.
Yeah.
It's until next time.
Until the next page. We're going to turn the page. That's it. Yeah. James, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and I really like hearing your mind and your input and everything. And yeah, maybe you make it quite simplistic. It might take a bit more hard work on yourself, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's not been easy. It's been a rocky climb, and you start off with like you've got no guidebook. You don't even know where to start looking there. It's just that feeling something's off, and then that's
we're
where it
back
all
to that
starts.
one. We're back to the Jupiter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that. It's something don't gel right. Something don't add up. I don't know what it is, but I've got a nagging feeling that won't go away.
Well, I'd like Jupiter to go away, to be honest. But anyway, that's another story, James.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you with this chat and everything. It's always great fun with you, James. So yeah.
Thank you, Karen.
Oh, no, it's a pleasure, and you know we'll talk soon. But don't go because we'll say goodbye off air. But yeah, I really appreciate everything you said today. Hopefully it resonates with everyone else. Thank you, James.
I hope they find it in themselves. I just take it out and I think, yeah, I feel so much better. I feel so good.
Let it out, let it go, let it go, let it go. So says James. And go in yourself. Anyway, thank you, James, and also thank you, chat room, and those that stayed listening to this hangout to the end. Thank you very much. Nice to James. Nice to chat room.
They deserve a medal if they've stayed done the distance.
Oh, James, everybody loves you. Anyway, we have to go.
Yeah.
Okay, James, say goodbye. So you've sort of said goodbye, haven't you? Yeah. Okay then. Thank you very much, everybody.